So we're doing two things right now. We're going to look at this example, which deals with part writing first inversion chords. This is an example that has some mistakes. And one of the challenges when you're learning how to do this is to identify your own mistakes. To be able to take a step back after you try to complete something and see if you can find those rules that we talked about and see if any of them are broken. This one has some mistakes in it. This is an example that's dealing with first inversion triads, and we can work on this together. Then we're going to talk about second inversion. So, again, this is dealing with first inversion triads. And identifying mistakes. For me, one of the quickest way to find mistakes is to play it on the piano. And this is why I urge everyone to learn how to play the keyboard. You can see and hear mistakes, and you kind of get used to how your fingers would move and how the voices move. So, looking at this example, let's see. So this is a correctly spelled 1 chord with good voicing, doubling, and everything. This is a good 1/6 chord. And just for background, what was given was an unfigured bass. So the only thing given was this bass line here. The choice of exact chord with inversion was something that was determined. And so it could be a mistake. So we could also look and say, well, 1 goes to 1/6, that's fine. Goes to 2 diminished 6, that's fine. To 5, to 6. Well, here's a mistake right off the bat. Because 5 does go to 6, but in a major key, in a minor key, which we are in A minor, 6 is a major sonority. So right here, that should be an uppercase Roman numeral 6. Now you can see that it was written correctly, but the Roman numeral analysis was incorrect. Now 6 does not go to 1. So that becomes a concern. Now again, what was given was the C, and the F was given. This is definitely a 6 chord with the way this goes. This is definitely a 5 chord. So this right here might, because it was given to you, you might not have an option but to break a rule. And we've talked about how breaking rule, what we want to do is learn the rules, and then we learn how to break them. This is one of the common breaking of rules. Of 6 after deceptive resolution going to 1/6. Why does that work? And again, this is something you are not authorized to do, but you might be asked to analyze this and come up with it. 6 in this context is a substitute for the 1 chord. 5 you expect to go to 1. Instead it resolves deceptively to 6. In other words, 6 in this context is a substitute for 1. So in a certain sense you could say, oh, the substitute for 1 goes to 1/6, and that would make a ton of sense. So that's how this is how this works. But you would call this a retrogression, and you wouldn't compose it, but you had to deal with something here. So 1/6 is perfectly fine here. Here we have another problem. It was labeled correctly here as 2 diminished 6. It was labeled incorrectly here as 2/6. 2 chords are diminished. So there's a circle missing. 5, 1. So looking at the Roman numeral analysis, and I'll take away the red mark here because there's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to mark with red what errors we find. So let's play this, see if we can use our ears as well. And we get to our opening chord, which is the 1 chord, then the 1/6. Then we go to 2 diminished 6. Now here's something that, as a rule, we have not talked about, but it's something you need to know. In a diminished triad, we always, let me put the S on there, always put them in first inversion, and we double the third of the chord. The third of the chord happens to be the same thing as saying the bass, because it's in first inversion. So in this case, we would not want to double the B. We'd want to double the D. And the most obvious place would be right here, to turn that B into a D. Now, of course, that's going to cause problems moving down the road, because if we change this to a D, then we have D, D going to E, E. But that's this is kind of like a new rule to be aware of. With a diminished triad, double the third. Why double the third? Well, for the same reason we put them in first inversion, because the root and the fifth is a tritone. And if you double one of the notes, that's part of the tritone, it's going to make the chord more dissonant. Whereas the third, that's the note that is consonant with both of the other notes. So you want to emphasize the note that's consonant, not the note that creates the dissonance. That's why you double the third. So here we have a doubling issue. When we get to our 5 chord, you can see this is one of the large errors, one of the unforgivable errors. This is a misspelled chord. The whole chord we're missing, we're missing a G sharp. The chord is incorrect. Also, let's take a look at this melodic leap here. F to B. That is an augmented fourth. That is an unacceptable melodic leap. So we have all sorts of issues with this one. Okay, getting into that 5 chord, the spelling of the 5 chord. Then let's move to the 6 chord. E, B, F, C. Those are parallel fifths. And to make it even worse, E, E, F, F, that's parallel octaves. So having everything except this one voice moving parallel up, root position to root position, is a recipe for disaster. When your bass moves up by step, you want to move all the upper voices down. That's the flow. So if it were me, I would be moving this B down, I would be moving this E down, and moving this down like it currently is. And then I would have no problems. Okay, so parallel motion, especially root position to root position with a step in the bass, this is where all you rookies are going to make mistakes. Let's keep going. We have our 6 chord. This is an incorrect doubling. So I put the D here. When it's a 6 chord for a deceptive resolution, you should be doubling the third. Remember what I said a couple minutes ago. In this context, the 6 chord is a deceptive resolution, a substitute for 1. If this were a 1 chord, it would be A, C, E, and we would double the A. But in this case, it's a 6 chord, F, A, C. But to kind of make it feel more like that 1 chord, we still would want to double the A. The A that would have been doubled if it were a 1 chord is still doubled even though it's a 6 chord. That's why it's not just a 6 chord that's functioning like a regular 6 chord. It's a 6 chord that is a substitute for 1. And again, substitute might not be the exact right way it's functioning, but it's where you're expecting 1, you're getting 6 instead. And because of that, you want to emphasize that difference. It's different than if you were just going a 3 chord to a 6 chord, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. There, in a 3, 6, that 6 chord is unquestionably a 6 chord. But when you go 3, 6, 2, 5, 6, that second 6 chord is a little bit different, and that's why we double the third. We then go to our 1, 6 chord here. We then go to our 2 diminished 6, and again, we need to double the D, and in this case, we do. So that's great. Now, Here we have D and D going to E and E. That is parallel octaves once again. The other problem is that right here, you should be using an uppercase Roman numeral 5. It should be a major triad. But if you don't raise the leading tone, it's really a minor 5 chord. And you should be raising the leading tone. Now when you do that, what's interesting is as you're going over your examples after you've been working on them, and you start correcting them like this, you might find that to correct them creates other issues. So sometimes you have to just go erase. Because if I were to just say, oh, I'm just going to change this to a G sharp, I'm going to be good. Now this F going to this G sharp is now an augmented second, which is an unacceptable melodically. So it won't be an easy fix. You'll need to go back to this chord and change what you're doing here so that you can get to the G sharp without an augment. If it were just F to G and that was allowed, then you'd be fine because F to G is a major second, no problem. But when you raise the leading tone and make it a G sharp, now we have a problem. So that is just an example of how you can look at your work and try to see whether there's some problems that you need to address. And then how to address them is a whole other can of worms. Taking a look at this example, first off, a Roman numeral analysis. We're in the key of E minor. This is a figured bass, unlike this one where what was given was an unfigured bass. And you can kind of come up with your own Roman numerals. And there's options here. This could have been a 3 chord. This could have been a 4 chord. In this case, there is no options. It's going to be a 1 chord, to a 5 chord, to a 6 chord. Notice the uppercase Roman numeral. To 2 diminished 6, 5, to 1 6, 7, diminished 6, 1. This is going to be a 4 chord, going to 2 diminished 6 to 5. After you get your harmonic analysis, your Roman numeral analysis in, you then have 2 options. There's 2 different methods. One is you kind of compose a melody that goes with this bass line, kind of creates a good counterpoint. The other is to kind of go chord by chord. If you really want your emphasis to be good melody, you would start with the melody and then try to fill in the inner voices, changing your melody as needed as you go. If your emphasis is to just try to do smooth voice leading, you could simply do it chord by chord. The basic rule is contrary motion with the bass and trying to create harmony. So if I want to create harmony, I'm not going to put an E, because I already got that in the bass. I'd like to create harmony with my melody. Thirds are great. I'm going to put a third in there. Third is a much better harmony than a perfect fifth. So that's how I'm going to choose to put a G in my melody. I'm then going to put an E here and a B here, so I have a complete chord. I know that this is going down. I'm going to want to move up. So I'm going to jump up to a B. And then I'm going to emphasize the harmonies. Now, as soon as I do this, I already see I have some concerns, because this would be great to go to a D sharp, but then I will want an F sharp. And F sharp just doesn't move smoothly anywhere. So I'm actually going to go back and change my melody. I'm going to give my F sharp here. I won't get my contrary motion. I'll raise my leading tone D sharp. I'll keep my common tone B. Then, when I get to my 6th chord, there's no options here. I know that this is the way it's going to move voice leading wise. These 2 notes are going to come together to double my third, and this is going to leap down a third to the 5th of the 6th chord. That's kind of textbook the way things are voice led. Then when I go to my 2/6, that's an F sharp diminished triad. Here I'm going to try to start getting my scale contour back. I'm going to go back up to the F sharp. I want to double the A it's really close right here. And I want the C to complete the chord. I then need to go to a 5 chord, and I won't forget to raise the leading tone. I'll keep this common tone here. I can't go to the D sharp from the C, because that would create an augmented second. Nor can I go from here. So after looking at that, I say I'm going to change that melody, because I put myself into a box. That's why sometimes it's easier to do it all at once. Again, trying to keep a good contour with my melody, but trying not to give myself any problems. This C doesn't want to go to the D sharp. This A doesn't. So the only thing left is this F sharp. So I'm going to put this F sharp to the D sharp. It's the only one that really easily moves there. Which means this C would go to a B, and this A easily goes to an F sharp. Then I go to a 1/6. This is a leading tone in the outer voice. It's got to resolve up to the E. I then retain a common tone. And here I can go down to the E, and so I'm doubling my soprano. So I'll do that for now. 7 diminished 6, that is a D sharp diminished triad. I'm going to see if I can get a leap in here. A little excitement. So I'm going to see if I can jump up to that A, and whether that causes any problems. If I do that, then this can go up to the D sharp. When I put the accidental in, because it's in a different voice, I rewrite it. And then I jump this, because I want to double the third, to the A. And then, so I have F sharp, then I want to resolve. I had a leap, I want to step back. So I get my G. I can't, this is F sharp, I can't move this to an E. I think I might take advantage of the, I might jump up to the B here, move this to the E. And let's see what that sounds like so far. That's sounding pretty darn good. And then we can finish that one up. Our 4 chord, going to a 2 diminished 6. Again, anytime we have a common tone, we can turn it into a longer note value. That should not throw you. So this B here, for example, we could erase that. We're in a B half note, because if we have a common tone there, we could put a B half note here. It doesn't change our harmonic motion. It's what actually occurs at any given beat. So here, for melody, I want to make sure that here I'm going to try to maintain my common tone. I'll write my E here. I'll put my A here. And I'll put my C here. Okay, so B, E, G. All right. So then the 3 above the bass stays. That's what this dash means. The 5 goes to 6. I'll keep the double note. So again, these could be turned into half notes. So here, A, F sharp, C, that gives me my 2 diminished 6. And then I'll go to 5. I will not have this A step up to a B, because that will create parallels. Instead, I'll jump down here. I'll jump this to the D sharp, and I'll step this to the B. And just because I did it in the other places, I'll turn these into half notes. So half note. That was a C. Let's take a listen to how we ended that. I'll start there on that 4 chord. We get so our whole example. Now, musically speaking, after this leap step back, it feels very unsatisfying to go back to that A. I would really prefer going right to the E here. And so I would, for musical reasons, see if I could modify that. Instead, I would love this to be the E, which would mean this is the C, and this is the A, E, F sharp. If that's the A, this cannot be the B. I'll have to change this voicing. This will have to jump down to the F sharp here. This goes to the B, this goes to the D sharp. And I would change it like so. And musically, that'll be more satisfying. The main reason is that that A is going to be your focal point, and you only want one of them. So that's the focal point. There's only one. And especially when it's preceded by a leap, it makes it even more dramatic and pop out. So, this is what we're going to be talking about next. So here's a little bit of a preview. Second inversion triads. You have 3 different kinds. Passing 6/4, what's called a pedal 6/4, another name for that is neighbor 6/4, and cadential 6/4. These are second inversion triads. In a second inversion triad, you always, second inversion, always double 5th of the chord, which is same thing as saying the bass. You always double the 5th of the chord, same thing as saying in bass. And you always move into a passing 6/4, pedal 6/4 by step. So typically, this is the most common one. And you'll see passing 6/4, it's like a passing tone, it goes up the scale. And one of the upper voices, might not be the soprano, moves opposite. So A, B, C sharp, you do the opposite, C sharp, B, A. So they kind of like, and you can do it backwards. One voice will stay like this, common tone the whole time. Another voice will do this. This is the pattern. You'll have, if this is your bass line, you'll always have something that does a scale this way. You'll have another one that is always common tone and another that goes like this. Now, that happens to be the soprano, the alto, the tenor. You can kind of switch which one is which. That is not a problem, but you'll always have that as the pattern. We will examine what the patterns are for the pedal 6/4 and the cadential 6/4 next time we chat. Thank you.